All right, now that we've discussed many different ways to get to the Omoplata situation, let's talk about the most basic way to finish the Omoplata. Now, when we get into the Omoplata, there's so many different things we can do. I feel most people that train Jiu-Jitsu, they feel when you get to the position, just attack the Omoplata, which is definitely a credible option, and it's gonna, if you have a good Omoplata attack, it's gonna be able to help you branch off into many different avenues. But it's really important to know the basic finish. So this is the basic finish. You'll see this in academies throughout the world. So let's just get started with the basics. So no emphasis on setups right now. Let's say not even in a position where we're sitting up like this. This is obviously ideal, but we don't start in this position, obviously. Anytime we get to an Omoplata, we're probably gonna be right about here. Now, some important details from this position, guys. First of all, I cannot just chill like this. If I chill like this, there's a lot of bad things can happen. For one thing, he can bring his wrist to the other side of the body, which can be very annoying, very aggravating. Secondly, he can jump over the top. So the things that we really need to watch for is posture is one thing, but the big thing, the guy jumping over. That's one of the first things people are gonna do. When I start showing people my Omoplata systems, I feel that's where they get caught a lot. They get a little lazy in this position here. Don't have a full sense of security when you're in this position with Omoplata. It's good, but there's still a lot my opponent can do. So the second I get to this, I would call it not an Omoplata, but an Omoplata situation, I ideally want to get to a seated position. So what I'm going to do is the second we've established this, I reach my hand closest to his butt up over his hips. This is going to prevent his jump a little bit. If he tries to jump from here, I can kind of counter it and posture up. So the first thing I'll do, I'll reach high over the hip. Now from here, I keep my knees tight to my chest. So I bring my knees tight to my chest, and then I'm going to extend them forward. As I do this, it kind of spring loads me forward. So from here, I can get to the seated position, and I can grab his lapel. Now from here, if you want to chill, you want to relax, by all means, this is an excellent time to do it. But don't do it until you get to here. There's just too much things that my opponent can do when we're in this scenario right here. So immediately I need to get to my seated position. So once we're here, I can initially control the wrist too. This is something that when I'm establishing a strong position, I don't have to focus on it too much as long as I have other control points. But initially, it might be a good idea to hold here since you're not doing anything with this hand anyway. You don't have to worry about reaching your hand inside for posture control because he's on his knees. So initially, you can start here if you want. So from here, my knees to my chest, I reach my hand over the hip, and I extend my legs up into this position just like so. Now, once we're here, I'm going to control his lapel with my free hands. This one's going to reach all the way inside and posture up real quick, Tony, just so people can see the grip. I'm going to have this grip just like so. Now from here, I say this a lot to people, sometimes the best thing to do from the Omoplata is nothing. Now granted, there are scenarios in which maybe you're down on points and you have to score because it's a tournament, but if that's not the case, the burden of offense is on your opponent. You got to a strong position, it's really on him to get out. I can control, recompose myself, then start attacking from this position. This is a position I really like to hold and control. If you ever watch any of my matches, you'll see I get to this Omoplata position, I start breathing in my nose, out my mouth, I start to slow my heart rate down, especially if the guy is spazzing out. If my opponent is spazzing out, posturing up, pressuring into me, I'm not going to try to force any type of finish. I'm just going to control the position, let him burn himself out. So let's say he starts to posture up. If he starts to posture up, look what I'm going to do. With my top leg, I'm just going to anchor him back down, just like so. If he tries to scoot into me, let's say he scoots in, I just move away. I'm just following him wherever he goes. But remember, we don't have to attack right away. There's a time and place, obviously, to be very offensive in jiu-jitsu, but there's also times to be defensive or just kind of relax. So a lot of times I just coax him into a slow game, and as he starts to slow down, that's when I'm going to take whatever offensive strike I'm going to take. Some important things from this position. I have this lapel nice and tight so there's no slack. Also, you notice I'm no longer controlling the wrist with my hand. The only reason I can get away with this, though, is because my knee is really tight to my chest. If he tries to bring his wrist to the other side from here, it's very hard because there's not enough space. If I'm laying back like this, though, he could bring the arm across. Now from here, I'm not necessarily in danger, but this is really annoying. You're not going to have fun from this position. It's hard for you to do anything. It's really hard for him to do anything either, and he knows that. He's just making this difficult for both of us. So make sure when you're in this position, just like so, keep your knee tight to your chest, hold this lapel. And remember, if your opponent's getting all buck and brolic, let them. If he starts to move, let's say Tony starts to move, he starts to posture, I just weigh my weight on him. I'm just controlling him and following him wherever he goes. And as he slows down, that's when we're going to start to attack.